Okay, guys, we're now moving on to topic number 9, which is paradigm shift, unlearning prejudice in the social challenge unit. Okay, so let's take a look. Unlearning prejudice. Prejudice is learned like race. Can it be undone? Right? Can it be undone? Sorry, that's supposed to be undone. Can we change our thoughts? If we can, how? We can. The answer is yes. So how? Let's see how we can do that. So here are some things that we looked at already. I'm just going to look at this one first. We recall the Robbers Cave experiment. I know we've referred to it a number of times, but remember this is where you had two groups of boys that were in camps that were taught to have in groups and out groups. All right, so there's just a video to help you remember if you would like to watch that. And then here is a broadcast that it's on YouTube of a different, I think it was a hockey. Yeah, I think it's a hockey sports broadcaster, and just showing the acceptance of different ethnicities delivering the, I don't know if it was, I think it's Hockey Night in Canada, different ethnicities delivering a sports broadcast, all right? Just shows the acceptance and unlearning prejudice. Okay, so Texas 1971, they desegregated the schools. So previous to that in Texas, they had segregated schools where people who had colored skin went to one school and people who had white skin went to another school. So they were segregated, but in 1971 they desegregated those schools. And that during that time there was a lot of hostility in the classrooms. I know there's a movie, Remember the Titans, where it's a football team all of a sudden where you had people with colored skin, people with colored skin came in, and they were on the football team with the white skinned people, people with white skin, and they were on a team. And I know Denzel Washington is the coach, and he struggled trying to help them learn to play together on a team. And eventually, it's a really good movie where it shows how they did overcome their prejudice, and they became a team that was, united, and they played well together, and I think they became an undefeated football team at that time. So it's called Remember the Titans. Pretty good movie. So there was hostility in the classroom when they first desegregated the schools. So Supreme Court decision to desegregate schools, they stated that separate facilities could violate the equality, right? It was violating equality to have all the people who have colored skin go to this school and all the people who have white skin go to that school. That violated equality, all right? So they decided to desegregate the schools. It caused a lot of hostility in the classroom. So here you have Elliot Arison, who tried to find a way to reduce the hostility in the classroom. And he gave his students something called a classroom jigsaw activity, and that allowed the students to mix up. All right, so they had to mix up and cooperate to solve problems. And that kind of reminds me of the Robber Cave experiment, where they had to, they had the different camps, they had to mix together and work together to solve problems that they had. So similar here, the jigsaw activities were basically a bunch of the children in the classroom, or kids in the classroom, would have to mix up together and work together, cooperate to solve a problem. So each group became an expert on a different piece of information. So for example, each group must cooperate as a whole to learn the whole topic. So for example, let's say the whole topic was the human body, but I made you guys go into groups of 5, and I just randomly assigned names. Didn't matter what your ethnicity was. And so I said, okay, you 5 are doing the digestive system, you guys are doing you 5 do the respiratory system, and you 5 do the circulatory system. Okay, so each group had to come up and answer questions about their specific system, and then they became the experts on that system, and then they needed to present it, and which would explain the whole functioning of the whole human body. All right, they had to teach the other groups about their system to understand the human body as a whole. So the result was, after 8 weeks of jigsaw activities, big improvements had been seen in both learning and cooperation between students of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, okay? So much of the criticism of this teaching strategy came from parents. They didn't want their group work where students had to assist each other. They thought their children would be held back in their progress learning from other students rather than the teacher. All right, so instead of the teacher teaching them, it was student teaching, and the parents didn't like that. So that was much of the criticism. But on the whole, the jigsaw really brought together students of different backgrounds, allowing them to, appreciate and understand each other. And it reduced the hostility in the classroom. So, White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Backpack, USA, by Peggy McIntosh. Peggy sheds new light on the subject of racial power relations. She should suggest that people of Anglo-European descent, like her, carry an invisible, weightless knapsack of skin color privileges that the bearer takes for granted. So that's what she says. And after comparing herself with African American women in her workplace at Wesley, I'm pronouncing that wrong, College MA, she made an autobiographical list of 46 daily ways in which she experiences unearned advantages just because of the color of her skin. So this is her. I decided to try to work on myself by at least identifying some of the daily effects of white privilege in my life. I have chosen those conditions. As far as I can see, my African American coworkers, friends, and acquaintances from whom I come into daily or frequent contact in this particular time, place, and line of work cannot count on most of these conditions. Okay, so she says, I can, if I wish, arrange to be in a company of people of my race most of the time. I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. I can turn on the TV or open to the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented. If I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area where I can afford and in which I want to live. Canada and the U.S. are mainly nations of immigrants. 1/5 of the Canadians are born somewhere else. All right? In 1970, Canadian government made a policy of multiculturalism, which encouraged people to preserve their ancestral cultures under Canadian laws and institutions. So multiculturalism, as a definition, is the presence of or support for the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic groups within a society. So can you think of any examples of multiculturalism shown in Canada? Can you think of any in multiculturalism examples in Stony Creek? I can think of many examples of different food places even that show multiculturalism. Now you can I know you can go down anywhere in Stony Creek. There's tons of different kinds of places to get food of different cultures. In 1980, some educators in Britain, US, and Canada began to use the term anti-racist education, which carries multiculturalism one step further. So it aims to reduce prejudice, but also eliminate institutional barriers. Eliminate institutional barriers to equality between different people. For example, some standardized tests are weighted in favor of the majority culture and are being replaced by cultural fair testing, including different cultures and socio and economic backgrounds. So they're changing the questions of standardized tests. Sorry, my nose is plugged. I have allergies. They're really bad this year too. So these questions on the standardized test won't just be kind of like reflecting the main majority culture. They're going to replace some of those questions with different kind of cultures. So including different cultures, including different socioeconomic backgrounds. All right. So they look at books. They also looked at books and materials that students are using in the classroom, which might contribute to racism and ethnic prejudice. Okay. So I'm going to post these textbook pages. You are to read page 313 to 321, answer questions 1 to 4A. No need for examples. All right. So there you go. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know and email me and